Hi, I'm Kelly Lamrock. I really think elections should come down to ideas, not image. Often all you see of us candidates is a bunch of glossy brochures that are pictures on some signs. That's why I want to take the time to talk about what's in here, what makes me want to run for office. What I've been going door to door with lately is talking to a lot of families about universal prescription drug coverage. Now, many of you might remember that I had a chance to lead the poverty reduction process, and I'm proud of what we accomplished. We reformed the social assistance system, so we moved people to work instead of trapping them in poverty, making a more humane system with benefits that let people think about getting the training and work they need instead of worrying where their next meal's coming from, getting rid of the economic unit policy that forced people to choose between having a roommate or getting their social assistance check. I also think by investing in things like childcare and high-quality childcare, we can help break the cycle of poverty for a lot of families. But there's one particular issue that really touches an awful lot of people in my riding, particularly middle-class families, and that's prescription drug coverage. One story of the many I've heard that always stayed with me was a couple that had recently retired and they thought their future was secure. Then they found out their daughter was sick, very sick. And the drug costs were going to be about $3,200 a month. Now, they did what any parent would do. They mortgaged their house, they took second jobs. But for all the talk of fiscal responsibility and debts and deficits, I still believe we're blessed enough in New Brunswick that nobody should have to do that. So what we were able to do was get a motion through the House to set a deadline by 2012 where we had to have a public option, a prescription drug and extended health plan that every middle-class family could buy into. There's a few things we're going to be able to do so we can do this affordably. First, make sure that employers have an obligation to cover their employees. There's a benefit for all of us. A good drug plan means less lost work time, more time that employees can be productive and happy, and of course it fulfills our obligation to look out for each other. The other thing we can do is make absolutely sure that we hold drug companies accountable. Make sure that they can't end your coverage just because you lose your job, that there aren't gaps in coverage, so if you change jobs you lose the medications you're relying on. And then make sure that government targets funds towards those who need it most, that we help families who are struggling with catastrophic drug costs, that we make sure that those who need extended health needs, from wheelchairs to diabetic supplies and strips, get the helps they need so they can afford. Essentially, it's making sure that everybody has an insurance plan that they can count on to cover them. Because really what it comes down to for me is that's what we do here in New Brunswick. Our values are that nobody's left on their own. Yes, we know that despite all the good hopes and wishes we have for each other, from time to time people are going to get sick and they're going to need help. Right now, too often, all the costs of that illness, all the costs of medications fall on just a few people. We can share the load through a proper insurance plan where everybody can have the benefits they count on so that nobody at their toughest time has to walk alone. To me, that's not just good common sense or good policy. It speaks to the very best of what we are as Canadians. Now, some folks, like the Conservative Party, say we can't afford it. My opponent has said that it's too much, it's too pricey. At a time like this, we gotta wait. I say we can't afford not to. First of all, because there are cost savings here. I can tell you right now that because of hospitals who cover drugs while you're in the hospital, doctors often leave patients in the hospital longer rather than send them home with the drug coverage they need. If a patient doesn't have health insurance, often they have to stay in the hospital longer. That costs money. Making sure we invest in home care and support for people to be out of the hospital when they can, making sure everyone can afford prescription medication and health supplies will actually help us save money and put that money back into patient care. Most importantly, though, the real reason we can't afford to wait anymore for prescription drug coverage is really it speaks to what government's supposed to be about. Making sure that every single family, when they're down and out through no fault of their own, can count on the support of their neighbors. I know I've been awful proud to always stick up for the underdog. I'm not always perfect. And sometimes I've made mistakes. But you always know where my heart is. Whether it's fighting poverty, raising literacy, starting a literacy mentoring program, making sure we create hundreds more affordable housing spaces like the ones we're building on Cliff Street, making sure childcare has more spaces of high quality so every kid, whether they live on Dune Street or whether they live in the richest neighborhood, has an equal chance to do well. This is the kind of value this speaks to. I really hope you'll see the value in joining me in this fight to get drug coverage everyone can afford. Ultimately, we're all in this together. Here on the north side, I know that's what we believe. So my name's Kelly Lamrock, and that'll give you an idea of why I'm running. Thanks for listening.